today we are making the Friendship Star Quilt block. So this is an easy block to make. This is going to be a 12-inch block, and you can see for this sample right here, the star is blue. We're going to be making one where the star is like a cream color and then the outsides are the blue. To do this, we're going to need 2 squares of fabric, a light and a dark, and these are 7 1/4 inches. And then we're going to need 1 square for our center. This is 3 1/2 inches. And then we'll need 4 squares for the corners. These are also 4 1/2 inches. So let's just get started with our half square triangles. We'll set aside these smaller squares. We're going to take 1 square of our fabric. We're going to make sure it's right side up. We'll take the other square of our fabric and place it right side down, right on top of it. Line up the edges, and then we're going to the sewing machine and we will just sew all the way on the outside of the square with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so we have our square sewn together, right sides together. Next we'll grab our cutting mat here. We're just going to take our square and we're going to slice it in half from corner to corner in both directions. So we'll just line that up, and then without moving it, if possible, then you can just move the other direction and slice it just like that. Okay, so we have our half square triangles here, and we're going to take our square up ruler. We're just going to line up the 4 1/2 inch marking right along the stitching that we did. Let's move these out of the way so I don't cut them on accident. And we will just slice around the edge. Now this will give us an exact 4 1/2 inch square once we open it up. And I did not get that very good. But we'll just repeat that process with all of our half square triangles. So again, we're just lining up the 4 1/2 inch marking on the ruler with the stitching line. And then we'll just take our rotary cutter and we will just slice along both sides to give us the perfect half square triangle. All right, so next we will just grab our ironing mat here and an iron. We'll just set the seam here and then we will press open the block. So just lift one corner and press it open just like that. All right, and then the last thing to get these ready to go is we're just going to clip off these tails. Just going to grab my little scrap basket here to catch those tails. I like to keep this on my workspace just to keep things tidy. Okay, so we have all of our half square triangles ready and we have our 4 1/2 inch square. So we're just going to lay out the block. So to begin with, we'll take our center square and then we will take our half square triangles and we will just lay them around the center. So we'll put one on each side and we'll just rotate them around to make the star look. So just like this. And then just make sure, sometimes I get things mixed up and backwards, but that looks right. And then we will just take our remaining squares and place one in each corner. So this is the Friendship Star. And at this point we will just sew it together like a 9 patch. So we will just take the 3 squares from the top row, we'll stitch them together, then we'll take the 3 from the middle row, stitch them together, and take the 3 from the bottom row and stitch them all together. All right, so we have our 3 strips sewn together. So the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to do some pressing to flatten out these strips. And this is where you can take care to nest your seams. So for this block, I'm going to press everything away from the half square triangles and towards just the plain blocks. And this, so you can see, so the reason I'm doing it that way is because you have this seam right here. If you tried to press it this way, it would make it a lot more bulky. So if we can press everything towards the flat blocks, then it's less bulky. So we have that. We'll just go over that one more time. So I just begin, press the seam, and then I just take it and I flip it up and just press over like that. So this side's a little easier because it's already flattened out on the other side, but then you just lift it up and press. Then the seam will be pressed away from the half square triangle. So we have our two top and bottom. Now for the middle, the plain square is in the middle. The half square triangles are on the outside. So to do this, we're just going to take our block like this, then we'll lift it up this way, and then it will press. So press it just like that, lift it up, then the seam will be pressed towards the middle, away from the half square triangles. So now we've got it all flattened. We're just going to lay out our block again, and then we will go to the sewing machine and we will stitch these together. So we're going to take our top strip, flip it right sides together. When I go to the sewing machine, I'm going to make sure that I have these seams interlocked. This is called nesting the seams. And this is why we pressed it how we did. But you're going to have one seam that's pressing facing this way. This seam will face that way. And then it will just butt up right against each other and give you perfect corners. So that's why we do the nesting of the seams. So we'll sew that. Once that's sewn, we'll grab our bottom piece and stitch along the bottom, just like that. All right, so there we have our block all sewn together, and we will just give this a quick press to flatten it out. So that is how you make the Friendship Star quilt block. So go ahead and play around with it, swap out the colors, make the star dark, make the star light, whatever you'd like. Another fun thing to do is you could make the center a different color than the points or the background, so that's another option. And then go ahead and check out the printable that I have that will give you the cut measurements to make 5 different sizes of these quilt blocks. So not only does it have the cut measurements for the different sizes, but it has instructions and diagrams for how to make the block as well. So you can just print it off, have it by your sewing machine, so whenever you'd like to make a friendship star, it's right there handy for you.